Hey guys, it's Miss Miners here for day 30, which is our last day of Read Alouds. It's our last biography this week and also, sadly, our last Read Aloud. So this will be the last video of me reading, I think. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the story so far. I know some of them have been a little long, but I think that most of them have been great stories, and I really hope that you guys have enjoyed them. Just as much as I have enjoyed reading them. So again, just to kind of preface my video, this story is another story from, or another book from our Fountas Pinnell Interactive Read Aloud kit. So all copyright information and credit goes to them, Fountas Pinnell. So again, we have been reading biographies this week, which are stories that are written by one person, but the person is telling the true story of another person's life. So on Monday, we learned about Zora Hurston, who was a famous writer. On Tuesday, we learned about Celia Cruz, who was the queen of salsa. On Wednesday, we learned about the man-fish, Jacques Cousteau. And yesterday, we learned about the snowflake man, Snowflake Bentley. Today, we are going to wrap it up with someone named Juan Quezada. And Juan Quezada was a potter. And what that means is that he kind of made pottery. He made creations. And he created pottery that was similar to pots that were created by ancient Mexicans long ago. And he used traditional techniques and only local natural materials. So he didn't go to the store and buy things to create this pottery, these pots. He used what he had and what he could find. So that's kind of what makes him interesting and what makes him unique. And this story is called The Pot That Juan Built. Okay, and the author is Nancy Andrews Goebel. And the illustrator is David Diaz. And something I want to tell you about the illustrations first is something kind of cool in that if you look very closely at the illustrations as I'm reading, some of the designs that are used to make the illustrations in the book were actually real designs that Juan put on his pots that he made. And at the end of the story, I will show you some real pictures of Juan as an adult, and also of some of his pots, some of his clay pots. So wait for that, that'll be at the end. But right now we are going to learn about the life of Juan Quezada by reading The Pot That Juan Built. So take a look at the front cover. Obviously we see that that is probably Juan. Okay, look at the back cover. Okay, we see again that this has won a medal. Okay. So I want you to think about what you noticed, okay? And I've already kind of told you what Juan is famous for, and he is famous for discovering a way to make clay pots today just like they did a long time ago, and only using materials that he found around him. He didn't go to the store and buy any of the materials. He used what was in nature and what he could find. And again, remember to look very closely at the illustrations, because the designs in the illustrations show you some of the things that Juan made on his pots. So, The Pot That Juan Built. Here's our title page. Looking at some of the designs. Okay, we've got a second title page here. Also, as I read, keeping in mind our question, why would a writer want to write about someone else's life? Let's see why someone would want to write about Juan Quezada. Oh, also, before I start, something kind of interesting with this story is that on one side of the page, you're going to hear some rhyme and a little bit of repetition, kind of like a poem. And then on the other side of the page, it's going to give you actual facts about the life of Juan, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second. So as I start reading on this page, it's going to kind of go in order of things kind of hard to explain, but in how he makes his pots and what he uses and the process that he goes through. And it's going to repeat each page, and it's going to add something new each page. And then on this page, you'll see that the text is a lot smaller. So this is where you're going to get your facts about the real Juan and about what he did for his life. All right. This is the pot that Juan built. Juan Quezada was born in Santa Barbara, Tutuaca, Mexico in 1940. When he was 1 year old, his family moved to Mata Ortiz, a village of dirt roads and adobe houses on the windswept plains of Chihuahua. It was there that Juan rediscovered the pottery making process of the Casas Grandes people who had vanished from that part of Mexico 600 years ago. Make sure I'm getting these pictures. There we go. Okay, so it says that the people who made the pots long ago vanished. Think about that word vanished. What do you think that means? The people vanished long ago. These are the flames so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. So already you see that it's repeating, but it's adding to it. Okay, here's some facts. Juan became a professional potter in the 1970s. Before that, he worked as a farm laborer, a railroad hand, a sharecropper, and even a boxer. He has never been afraid of hard work and takes pride in using ancient methods and natural materials in his pottery making. Juan taught 8 of his 10 brothers and sisters and many of his neighbors how to make pots. They all developed their own special styles. Juan's discovery changed Mata Ortiz from an impoverished village of poorly paid laborers into a prosperous community of working artists. Okay, so on this side is where we have that kind of poem, the rhyming, where we add to it, and then this side has the facts. Okay, so there were 2 new vocab words on this page that we're going to talk about for a second, and this is part of your questions, but we're going to kind of talk through it. So the first one was the word impoverished. Okay, I'm going to read it to you in that sentence that it was in. It says, Juan's discovery changed Mata Ortiz from an impoverished village of poorly paid laborers. Okay, so impoverished. Think about impoverished, and they weren't paid very much. So what do you think that word impoverished might mean? Okay, and then the second question says, what does the word prosperous mean? Then it says it turned them from poorly paid workers, so they weren't paid very much, into a prosperous community of working artists. So it went from not a lot going on, not a lot, to a lot going on and people being paid for their work. So we've got the word impoverished, which is what it was first, okay? And it changed to prosperous, which was when all the people were working and getting the things. Okay, so I'll give you a little hint. The words impoverished and prosperous are opposites. So impoverished is how it started, not really good, okay, not a lot going on. Prosperous, good, lots of business, lots of things going on. So what do you think the word impoverished means? And what do you think the word prosperous means? Okay, I hope that helps you guys. And then the last question on this page says, how did Juan help his family and neighbors? How did he help them? These are the cows all white and brown that left manure all over the ground, that fueled the flames so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan's pottery is fired the traditional way, using dried cow manure for fuel. He gathers manure on the cattle range that surrounds the village of Mata Ortiz. In his experiments, Juan learned that manure from cows that eat grass, rather than commercial feed, burns at the best temperature to turn his clay pots into perfectly fired works of art. All right, so we all know what manure is, right? Okay, so when you make a clay pot like Juan was doing, you have to fire it, which means you have to bake it, basically. So it becomes very, very hard. So Juan used manure, which I'm not even going to explain. You guys know what manure is. And in the process, the kind that he used was dry and looked like dirt. Okay? So it wasn't like regular manure you're thinking about. Okay? So the one that he used was dry and it looked like dirt. Why do you think he wanted to use that kind to make his pots instead of a normal manure? Think about what normal manure looks like, and then think about Juan's dried out manure that looks like dirt. Why would this one be better to make a clay pot? This is the brush of hair from his head that spread the paints all black and red, that colored the pot for all to admire before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flames so sizzling hot that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan makes paint out of local minerals such as black manganese and red iron oxide. He makes paintbrushes from human hair. He says that some of his best brushes are fashioned from children's hair, especially his granddaughters. Since very little hair is used to make a paintbrush, no one minds giving Juan just a snip to design a pot. So he makes his paintbrushes out of real human hair. These are the rocks of red and black, brought down from the mountain on burro back, to make into paint all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flames so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. When he was 12 years old, while bringing firewood down from the hills on his burro, Juan found his first potsherds. They were pieces of broken pottery from the ancient Casas Grandes city of Paquime, which was located 15 miles from present-day Mata Ortiz. The potsherds inspired Juan to create something similar. Even though he had never seen a potter at work, Juan began experimenting with local materials. His mother declared that he was always covered in dirt of many colors from his experiments with minerals and clay. So I'm going to point out here in the background, make sure you're looking at the background for the designs. Remember I said at the end I'm going to show you some of his actual clay pots in real life. Some of them might have that design that you see in the background. This is the tool that's made out of bone that rubbed the pot until it shone, and glittered and glowed and glistened and glimmered and gleamed and beamed and sparkled and shimmered, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. After his clay pots dry, Juan polishes them before he applies the paint. To polish his pots, Juan uses animal bones, smooth stones, and even dried beans. Animal bones are abundant because of the deer hunting and cattle ranching that help feed the people of Mata Ortiz. Smooth stones are available in the Pelanganas River, which runs along the eastern boundary of town. Of course, dried beans can be found in any kitchen in the village. So again, it's telling you where he gets his materials. They're all just right there for him. Let's look at some of these designs. So we've got designs here, maybe some of these designs in the water, a design over here. Looks like there's some maybe even up here. All designs. Here's the tortilla, slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay, so slick and fat, that became the pot. Imagine that. In the wink of an eye, in the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire. The crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan hand builds all his pots. He begins by patting out a flat piece of clay he calls a tortilla, which becomes the bottom of the pot. He then rolls out a sausage-shaped piece of clay called a chorizo and presses it onto the edge of the tortilla, pinching and pulling it up to become the walls of the pot. Juan makes his pots in a small workroom behind his house, often in the company of chickens and his calico cat. So he doesn't work around people, he works around chickens and his cat. This is the clay all squishy and white, dug in the hills from morning till night to make the tortilla slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat, that became the pot. Imagine that. In the wink of an eye and the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone over and over it till it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. Juan says his painted designs look best on barro blanco, a pure white clay he digs in the Sierra Madre Mountains above Mata Ortiz. He uses the ancient designs of Casas Grandes potters for inspiration, but he doesn't copy them. Juan never plans the decoration in advance. He lets the pattern develop as he paints it onto the clay pot. So he never plans what he's going to paint onto his pots before he does it. He just builds the pot and then he paints whatever comes to his mind. So he's very, very creative. Got a big design on this page in the background right there. These are the ants that led the way and showed Juan a vein of special clay, the very best clay, all squishy and white, dug in the hills from morning till night to make the tortilla slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat, that became the pot. Imagine that. In the wink of an eye and the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot, the beautiful pot that Juan built. One day, while Juan was out searching for minerals and clay, he noticed a colony of ants burdened with tiny cargoes of white material. Looking closely, Juan realized that the ants were transporting bits of clay from underground up to the edge of their anthill. So Juan dug a hole near the anthill and unearthed a vein of white clay, the finest clay he had ever seen. Okay, so we got a question on this page. It says, Juan likes to explore and try new things. How has that helped him make his pots? So let's think about that. He's very adventurous, and I've already explained that he's very creative. So how do those things help him when he's creating his pots? Now, I also told you a couple pages ago that he never plans out what he makes, the designs he makes on his pots. So with all of these explorations and all these experiments that he does and trying new things, how does that help him to create these pots and to create those designs? This is the cock that crowed at dawn, that greeted the village and woke up Juan to ride the range at break of day, gathering rocks and hunting for clay, the very best clay, all squishy and white, dug in the hills from morning till night, to make the tortilla slap, slap, pat, pat, and the sausage of clay so slick and fat, that became the pot. Imagine that! In the wink of an eye and the blink of a cat, before it was rubbed with a piece of bone, over and over until it shone, to show off the paints all black and red, spread with the brush of hair from his head, that colored the pot for all to admire, before it was baked in the cow manure fire, the crackling flame so sizzling hot, that flickered and flared and fired the pot. Juan gave away his first pots as gifts to family and friends. Today, his work is exhibited in museums and art galleries all over the world. In 1999, Mexico's president, Ernesto Zedillo, presented Juan with the National Arts and Science Award, the highest honor for any artist in Mexico. Pope John Paul II received a Juan Quezada pot as a gift from the people of Mexico. In spite of his fame and wealth, Juan cherishes most of all the time he spends in solitude, which means all by himself, exploring the hills above Mata Ortiz in search of minerals and clay. If he is very quiet, Juan says, the voices of the ancient potters can still be heard. So even though he loves making all of these pots, he says that his favorite times are when he's all by himself, climbing up those hills, trying to find his minerals and his clay to make the designs on the pots. So our question on this page, let me show you guys the illustrations first. So our question on this page comes from that very last sentence. And that very last sentence says, if he is very quiet, Juan says, the voices of the ancient potters can still be heard. What do you think he means when he says that? When he says, if I'm quiet, the voices of the ancient potters can still be heard. Now, the word ancient means old, very, very old. So if he's very quiet, the voices of the ancient potters can still be heard. What do you think that means? The beautiful pot that Juan built. Okay, and the last question's pretty simple. It just says, what did you think about this biography? So that's your opinion. There's no right or wrong answer. Just tell me what you thought about it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you think it was interesting? Tell me about your favorite parts that you didn't like. Okay, just tell me your opinion. Now, just like I promised you guys at the beginning, I'm going to show you real pictures of Juan and of some of his creations. So the first picture I'm going to show you is actually the Mata Ortiz, and this is what it looks like today. So that's where Juan was making all of his creations. That's what it looks like today. Okay, this next picture I'm going to show you is Juan Quezada with one of his pots. Okay, so that's the real Juan Quezada with one of his clay pots. Okay, this next page has a bunch of them. So the first one is going to be Juan digging for clay, and then the next one is going to be him cleaning the clay, then shaping a pot, polishing a pot, and adding the chorizo. Okay, so I'm going to look at this upside down, but I'll try to do it like this. All right, so we've got, this one is he's digging for clay. Okay, then we've got, let's see, this one where he is cleaning the clay. Okay, then we've got this one where he's adding the chorizo. Right there. Okay, then we've got, looks like this one where he's actually making the pot, shaping the pot. And then we've got this one right here where he's polishing it with the stones and the animal bones. So making it shiny, that's what that means. Okay, let's see, on the next page we have him grinding minerals for the paint, so he's making the colors. And then it's going to show him actually painting a pot. It's going to show him stacking fuel around a quemador and a pot that is actually cooling. Okay, so this first one looks like he's grinding the minerals for paint. So he's making the colors in this one. Okay, then it looks like down here he's actually painting a pot. Okay, this one right here, he's painting a pot. Okay, this one up here is where he's stacking the fuel. And then this one is a pot that is cooling. So he's already painted it, but remember it had to bake, so it was very hot. So it has to cool. I think, oh, there's more. Okay, and on this page, there's one of Juan's unique pots. Then there's another picture of Juan. And then there's Juan teaching his grandson to make a pot. And then another one of his pots. Okay, so this first one is one of his unique pots. Remember, the word unique means special. This is one of Juan's unique special pots. Look at those designs. Very unique, very special. And he created these all by himself. Okay, then we have Juan himself right there. Then we've got Juan helping his grandson right here. And then last but not least, we have another one of his pots, another one of his creations. And that is it for this one. So sorry that this one was a little bit longer, guys, but I just wanted to show you all those real pictures because I think that's what's so special about a biography, is that it's about a real person. So you want to see what that real person actually looks like. And those were some of his creations that we just learned about and just read about. So like I said at the beginning of this video, this was our last one. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to all of the stories. I know it's a little bit different, but we just kind of have to go with it. And I know you would rather be listening to your teachers in the classroom, sitting on the carpet with all your friends. But I hope that me reading these stories to you have at least kind of helped make you a little bit happier and kind of switch it up a little bit and not make you have to do so much of the paperwork and just actually get to listen to somebody reading to you. So if you want to go back and watch any of the other stories or listen to any of the other stories, they're also still uploaded to that YouTube channel, or you can look on your Teacher's Class Dojo. But like I said, I've really enjoyed reading to you guys. I wish you guys were sitting in front of me so that we could have these discussions and talk about these books. But hopefully we will see each other soon. And I hope you guys are having fun while you're away from school. But just know that me, as well as all of your teachers, miss you so, so much. We can't wait to get back to school and get all of the hugs that we've been missing, and all the smiles and all the laughs and all the stories. But just keep having fun, keep working hard, stay safe, stay healthy, be good for your mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, aunt and uncle. And most importantly, don't forget to always be kind. And no matter what, just know that if you dream it, you can do it. We'll see you guys later.